way that he just moves and just wrecks much larger guys is just beautiful. Bernardo is an amazing. So the guy in blue is Bernardo, and he's an amazing guy. They're also both the two biggest Care Bears ever. They're very cheerful and friendly, Marcelo and Bernardo. But this is basically going to be about 30 or so seconds of Bernardo trying to get out of Marcelo's going to pass his guard, and Bernardo's going to attempt for a while to escape. So without any further ado, I'm going to start right here with Marcelo about to pass. And let me just, all right. I just want to say at this point right here, this is just a really nifty thing I just noticed maybe an hour ago. Look how he just moves like that. Just moved, he moved his, oops. Look how he just pushes away the leg and then moves his foot in there. All right, so what we're going to see is Marcelo's going to want to put Bernardo on his back. He wants Bernardo's hips facing the air. Until you have mentally broken the person, side control is not a static position. They're going to be squirming, bucking, doing whatever they can to get out. And so you've got to be able to float with them and move with them and be flexible. You can't just side control and hold it, because someone good will immediately get out or even sweep you from there. So what we're going to see is Marcelo showing some very, very, very high-level top game. Now, what Bernardo's going to want to do here, he's want to get his knees to his chest and create a frame to give his hips distance to get out. Marcelo's not going to want him to do that at all. So every time you're going to see Bernardo try to bring his knees in, you're going to see, every time you see Bernardo bring his knees in, you're going to see Marcelo block them. So right here, he's got a weave, I guess you call it a leg weave. And if you can imagine this, if Marcelo pulls up on Bernardo's this leg, it's going to make his hips tilt like this so that they're facing the air. And so this is one of the things he's going to do. Look at that. As Bernardo tries to get on his side, because you don't want to be flat on your back here and being pinned, look at that. He's going to bring his knees in to try to create some frames, but Marcelo's just going to block it at every turn. Look at that. Boom. He just brings in his hip and blocks it. Now, here's a little cool something I noticed. Watch it very closely. You're going to see Bernardo actually try to shove. Wait for it. He's grabbing this leg here, and right now he's going to try to shove it through like this. But Marcelo just blocks the hip and then pushes off, and using his body. Look at this. Bernardo's going to be grabbing right here, and as he goes, boom, checks the hip, and then uses his body to throw Bernardo to the side. You're gonna keep seeing right there. He almost got him. But at this point, once again, look how Marcelo just pushes forward. Right when his hips are compromised, you know, his hips are going to be, facing upwards now that Bernardo is passing that leg through. He's going to push off this foot and just completely nullify that. Just look at the way he floats. He's shifting his weight all over the place. He's not static, just trying to hold him there. He's moving right now. His weight is less over Bernardo's hips and more over his head. And now we're going to see Marcelo try to turn over, get some space. But Bernardo turn over, get some space. Marcelo just pushes him down. He's got to And this part, I really like this part. All right. Right here, Bernardo's getting that hook in. Try to get that half guard. Now what you're going to see here is you see a good frame here. This is keeping Marcelo's hips from, him moving his hips up more over here. So he's putting him over here and hooking his foot. You're going to see Bernardo bring a hand over here, and he's going to try to load up Marcelo on his hips and turn. But what you're also going to see is some Jedi magic. At the moment that he grabs, look at this, and he starts pulling over, see how he's doing that steering motion with this hand and this hand? If Marcelo does nothing, he's going over. But look what he does. As soon as that grip is made and the pull starts, Marcelo switches his hips. Now look at all that space there. Just by switching his hips, and it just slips right through, still blocking the knee. See, Bernardo just can't get his knees to his chest. Once again, just no matter what he does, just blocking every time. Even right there. If someone has a frame, you can't go through a frame. He's put his leg there. So instead of going through a frame, Marcelo's just going to go around it. Look at that. He just kind of, he points his hip in one direction and then swings it back. Look at that. All right, now this part gets interesting because Bernardo manages to get a nice frame in there and here, and he's going to begin to bring in his knees. So Marcelo is a little bit stuck here. But what is he going to do? He's going to do some Jedi magic. All right. There's you can't really see, but the frame is kind of up here. And what he does is he's going to first drop his weight down on his right hip, and that's actually going to he's going to go around the frame over here, and he's going to slip by it, and at the same time, wait for it, he's going to drop his weight. He's just going to move that foot over there, so it's just he comes down and then like that. Let's watch that again. All right, he's going to all of a sudden just collapse his weight. Boom, and just moves around, and then immediately blocks. At every moment, he is not letting Bernardo get any space in. In fact, we're going to see in a moment. You're going to see Bernardo begin to shrimp out and create some space. Because when you're in the bottom, you want to create space to get out. And all right. All right, here it is. Watch this. Bernardo's going to shrimp out. Look what Marcelo does immediately. He doesn't just hang out there. He closes that distance right back up. He puts that knee right back in the hip. Anytime someone shrimps, they're creating distance, so close it right back up. Now from here, you're going to see Bernardo manage to get to a turtle position, or more like Marcelo, let him get there. So we're gonna stop it here. When it comes to side control, getting out of side control really sucks. It's really difficult. It's exhausting. Even though Bernardo got out, he really burned a lot of energy. It was a Pyrrhic victory. He may have escaped, but he is, that took a lot of gas out. He's using all his strength trying to get out, and that will have an effect on someone. So, but at the same time, he never gave up. He eventually got out. It may have burned a lot of energy, but you never want to concede that side control. everyone has been there where that moment where you just give up and let it happen. And it's like the same when you're doing exercises or rolling hard. A lot of times your mind breaks before your body, and you've got to condition yourself to not let that happen, to not give up that side control, because getting out of it is going to be a lot harder than if you prevented it in the first place. So you have to have in your mind, I'm going to get out. You have to believe that you're going to get out, and you have to never stop trying to get out. And you have to realize that if you don't get out, you're going to die. Now, maybe I'm being a little dramatic here, but I want you to have that mentality to not give up position, that to fight for everything and not let anyone pass your guard. And that's just a really good example of showing this. We've got two wonderful, amazing jiu-jitsu practitioners, both mentally tough. We've got Mace Windu in blue here, and Marcelo, Yoda in white. And that's all the gushing I have for today.
Can we see that in full motion, without like an actual live speed?
Oh, sure. All right, let me. I'm gonna.
Is that live speed for you, Eric?
That's live speed.
It's a little choppy for me.
Oh, yeah. It might be the internet. Yeah, it is a little bit choppy.
But we get the general idea of it. Definitely, it's like, what's one thing to watch something in slow-mo, and then when you actually see what it looks like at live speed, and just like all these positions are happening, like this sequence probably was only maybe 10 seconds worth of actual movement, but we were able to slow it down into a minute or whatever. And so if you didn't slow it down, you would be missing all these things. So it's nice when you get to do the comparison of slow-mo and then live speed, because then you can actually see like how impressive what they're doing actually is.
One thing that I think that's illustrative here is a concept or a principle. And a principle is basically something that applies most of the time. And if you can learn a principle, it really makes your jiu-jitsu a lot more powerful, because it can apply to an infinite number of techniques, right? So one of those principles is when you attack, you go hip to hip. And Marcelo's definitely good with that. He's trying to block Bernardo's hips. He's getting his hips in there. He's getting his knees in there. And I thought that was a really good example of him applying that principle. And another one, you see that right foot, see how it's dead on the floor? A lot of times people say, oh, you always have to have live toes, like that's a principle. But not necessarily all the time. I mean, he in this fight, I was looking at that, and where he's got his live toe and where he's got a dead toe. Like, you see it starting to like become alive. Look to see when it's not and when it is. So, Eric, obviously this fight, I mean, is he getting that choke?
Yeah, I think he does.
Does he actually get that? Marcelo.
I think he got that one. I'm not sure, but either way, this guy. I think Bernardo has to outweigh Marcelo by at least 60 pounds.
I was just gonna say that.
Just seeing
Marcelo's a
Marcelo
middleweight,
just toy with him.
Bernardo's a super heavy.
And if you guys haven't seen Marcelo Garcia, he's been around for a long time, and he stood out to me years and years and years and years ago, because he was just like this little man that was like killing giants. I mean, like the scariest, biggest, strongest, ugliest looking people you've ever seen in your life. And he was just like arm dragging them and choking them and beating them with what looked like ease, like it was easy for him.
I remember hearing that he was, when he first appeared in ADCC, he was a complete dark horse. Everyone who was there completely overrided him. Like, oh, like, yeah, there's this, small Brazilian kid that's in the division, and he ended up winning it all, and just beating everybody just outright. Like, just flat outright. I remember, I think I heard the story from Vitor Shaolin, who was saying like he when he fought him, and he was thinking like, yeah, I'm just gonna, first I have this guy, and he just completely wrote him off, and then Marcelo Garcia, I think, put his name in history after that. I don't remember what year that was, but I do remember hearing that story from Vitor Shaolin.
That's a young-looking Bernardo too, by the way.
Yeah, 2014.
Eric, do you know what year this was?
2014. By the way, at this point right now, Marcelo chokes him out. Just look at that thing of beauty. That's just, I'm gushing like a teenage girl. I'm sorry. There's just some things. And I think it's really important, for everyone of every, for beginners, watch tape. Like, look at the way they're moving. And when you really examine it, you'll begin to emulate it. You'll begin to move like them. So really just look at, every inch tells a story. And if you can slow it down your brain and you can examine it and you can understand the logical progression of what happens and what happens next based on the position, your jiu-jitsu is going to improve so much. The mental game is so important.
Wow. That was fun. Again, I'm going to cancel my Netflix first chance I get. Thank you, Eric. So
Thank you.
I'm sure Kristina and Junior have some good stuff for us. So I'm going to hand it over. What you guys got?
First. That's why I have my desk.
Yeah, you can go first. Mine is question.
All right, so we are going to be taking the back from side control today. So so that was kind of cool that we got to see like some side control stuff going on with Marcelo Garcia and how he maintains it. I'm going to go through a couple different ways. The way that I'm going to go through, it involves a drill. And then from there, you can see how you can actually take it back. So more than anything, this is more a drill than it is an actual technique. And it's more so that you can recognize the position. The more that you recognize it, the more likely you'll be able to take advantage of it when you see it. So starting from side control. Now, my opponent, depending on how the pressure I put on my opponent is where he's going to turn, right? So if I think about like the 4 points, his shoulders and then his hips, okay? If I were to isolate the side that's furthest away from me, right? If he tries turning in towards me, he cannot. He can't turn towards me. The only way he can turn is away, turn away, very easy, okay? If I isolate the side that's closest to me, okay, I'm just gonna put my hand down. He can try and turn away. He cannot, but he can very easily turn in towards me, okay? So these are the two things that you need to recognize. And the ways that we're both gonna show taking the back from side control, they involve both. So mine is gonna take advantage of his position, and when Junior does his will take advantage of more of this position, okay? So very important that when you have side control, essentially you can kind of decide in which way you're gonna try and take the back, depending on where you put the pressure on your opponent, okay? So with that in mind, all right, more often than not, your opponent will not want to give the back right away, right? Because they know if they turn away that they're already willingly giving the back to you. So this is not the most common reaction. Most common reaction is what? This, turning in. Why? Because that's where their legs can come in and then they can recover their guard. So this is the position that we actually want to take advantage of, right? I want to take advantage of the fact that the moment that he turns in towards me to hip escape, I see that his back has left the mat. This is the opportunity that we want to take advantage of, okay? Always think, the back is not on the mat, that means the back is exposed. That means I can attack it. Or it's open or clear for me to try and get to that side, okay? So this is the position that we want to recognize, right? So we'll try and go through it slow first. Now, if he turns towards me, and if I don't do anything to secure this, right? If I just start trying to go north-south right now to his back, he'll either bring the leg in, right? Or he can always go back flat again. So he'll hide his back. So I need to make sure that I can secure something. That's what I'm gonna secure is gonna be his arm. So I need to have a grip to maintain so that he can keep coming in towards me. So he turns in towards me. Right away, my hand's gonna go in and then just gonna cup, just cupping the tricep here. And this is just enough just to pull him towards me. It does not have to be a big pull. And again, I'm stopping here, but when we do the actual drill, you actually don't stay here. This is just so that you can keep their motion in that direction as we're gonna start going around, okay? Because if I don't grab anything and I go around again, he'll just go flat again. Okay? So he turns in towards me. Right away, I'm here, okay? Now I could post my hand on the mat, but sometimes the head is up. Again, I can post my hand on the head, but it actually doesn't stay there very long. It's just enough to help me step around. I'm gonna try and do this slow, but realistically, you're not gonna do this slow. I just go here just enough so it's easier for me to pass around. That's it. I don't need to stay here like too long, okay? Here. As I'm going around, now I can bring my arm around and block the hip. And notice, I'm trying to drop, and I'm really high up right now. I'm trying to drop so that I can get my chest to his back. And I think it's one side. Turns around here, okay? It's a little bit of a back step. Now I'm high right now. That's because I'm doing it slow, but realistically I'd be a lot lower. And so if I do land high, I actually want to be able to drop my chest low. This is what we're trying to get to here. If I'm too high, he can bring his back to the mat very easily, drop his shoulder. If I drop low, my chest is behind his back. Now it's very hard for him to bring his back. And now the only way he can turn now is exactly away. So his options are either stay here or turn to his knees. Either way, he's already exposing his back, okay? I can lock up, slide, and then decide how I want to take him back. But because this is a drill, I'm gonna let him return back to here. I'm gonna let him return here because again, this is I just want to drill the movement. So when you first do this, most likely you're gonna start from side control to side control. But ideally, you want to go from side control to back, and then let them recover so you can get back to side control. So over here, he turns in towards me, down, drop, wide. Very important I get to here. Okay, again, I just bring my hips very close down to the mat. Okay, drop the hips back. We'll have to be very flexible. And I have to have live torsion because I need to keep driving myself into him. I can't let him turn in towards me, otherwise he loses position. Okay, but for the drill, I get here, I alleviate my pressure. You can turn back towards me. It will look very sloppy when you first start doing it, but the more and more you do it, the better it gets. Really important things. When you decide to do the back step, you have to really kind of commit to it. Again, it's very hard to do this technique slow. You cannot do it slow. If you do it slow, at some point, you'll give them opportunity. Like junior specialty, he said that he likes going for the leg, for the single leg, right? So if you stay in front of them for too long, you'll give them opportunity to grab your leg. So the moment that you decide that you want to go to do this, you have to go, right? So drill this often. It's very similar to the knee on belly back step, but again, very different positions. Sometimes you don't have the opportunity to go to the knee on belly, and the opportunity is already there. So you want to take advantage of it right when you see it. You don't want to wait. Questions? Questions?
Kristina, can you walk me through it?
What was it?
Can you walk me through? I tried it with Austin, but I can't get the back step part. Can you like watch me and walk me through it again?
Yes, of course.
Okay. She said start? Yeah. It's awesome, everybody.
Hey,
Austin, you're getting big, bro.
appreciate it. Nothing else to
Yeah.
Okay.
So start inside,
Yeah.
and then he turns towards me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then goes under or over?
It should be. Okay, so he's turning here. My arm goes under the armpit part and then over to the tricep. Yeah, there it is. Now you should be able to pull him towards you a lot easier. Yeah, there you go. Push his head down. Good. And again, just so that it gives you enough time to kind of do a back step around him. Good. Now, your hand that's on the arm, it's actually going to let go and it's going to go over his hip. Sorry. Here, so this hand that was free, the one that was on his head, yeah, it's going to go to over his hip.
So
And see how he's flat on his back right now? He should be facing away from you. Yeah, and now have your other elbow over his hip. Your right elbow, yeah, your right elbow. The one, that hand. Yeah, now you can whip your left arm out. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, and then now get your chest to his back. Yes, there you go. Nice. Now instead of being on your knees, have your hips to the mat. Yes, and then your other arm can be hugging around his neck. Yes, there you go. Nice. Yeah, good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm worried about my arm getting trapped in his arm.
Yeah, so like I said, this is one of those things you have to kind of do fast because your arm is gonna whip out fairly quickly. I need to show it. Again, one of those things hard to show fast. I'll try and do so. Here, push. I put my hand out. This is whipping out, sorry. This whips out as I come. And look, I can even put my hand behind here as this is something I also do too. If I need to, if I feel like my chest wasn't enough and I start feeling like his shoulders are gonna drop down, I can even put my hand here until I get my chest and I can get to here. I'm underneath the neck. Other one, this is already here as an underhook, as like a seatbelt grip. So if I wanted to take the back from here, I just keep walking. I can take the back this way, or if he turns away, I can take it back from there. So as you're stepping around, you're whipping the arm out. It's like you're whipping the arm out with the grip, and the other arm is exchanging by trapping the hip. So it's kind of like a
like a windmill type thing.
Yeah. So try your best to keep drilling it, because again, this is not an easy one to do. But if you can at least recognize the position, that's going to be something that's going to help you a lot in the future.
Cool.
Good question. Any other questions? All right, I'm gonna take it over to Junior.
All right, guys. Okay. All right, guys. So we're on side control, right? Person has the frame. I have my hand on the armpit as we have been showing the whole time. And I usually trap the hip right here, right? My toes are definitely live, even if you can't see it, all right? Now for this position, first things first, I'm gonna change my arm position on the hip to the hip that is closer to me, because I need to move the person towards that side. Again, when you have side control on somebody and they cannot push you, right? It starts becoming hard for them. So sometimes they will help you and start going that way, all right? But in this case, if they don't go, I force them. You're gonna force them to go that way. They don't wanna go, you have to make them. So I'm right here. I change my hand to the far hip here, all right? I can either use my forearm to push or to guide them to go that side, or if I'm going with guys like Eric or Coach Mike, who are very, very strong, or Darnell, I still am able to maintain them. And you guys actually saw this a little bit on the video that Eric showed. Marcelo did this. I don't know if you guys remember. He went inside the legs because Bernardo is way stronger. And to keep somebody way stronger than you like this, it's almost impossible. Even Kristina, who has the same strength as me, I can't really keep her. But if I go inside the leg and I make a grip, now I can actually keep her on her side. Because I'm pinning her some like, see, because I'm putting pressure on the top leg and pinning on the second leg, making a hook here in my hand, right? So from here, I pin her. Now I'm gonna change my arm that is on the armpit. It's gonna go in and under her armpit that is closer to me. I was right here. Look, my arm gets out and goes here. So I'm right here, right? Here. Even with the frames, I don't need to go far. Now, my hand, when I go under here, right? My hand is gonna grab behind the neck. Here, right? Go in. And grab. Now, I have to make sure her shoulder or her armpit comes all the way up to my shoulder. What I'm gonna do, not only just push her, but now I'm gonna sort of yank my arm up like this. Look at this, right? So here, look where she goes. Now I'm gonna use this moment to go for a sit-up. Right, here. So again. Go in, here, move. I keep using my back on top of, I keep using my chest on the person's back, or what's this?
Ribs?
Or the ribs. I'm putting all my weight forward. Again, I'm driving with my legs. This is the position. This is how I am. So I'm driving forward all the time. So putting as much pressure as possible. So there's really no way for them to come back. There's really no way for them to come back. They're pinned on that side, right? Now, my hand is already closer on top of the neck. I'm gonna go under, close my seatbelt. I'm gonna stay close. My legs are gonna come up, in. All right, when my leg is here, I'm gonna make it tight now. From here, all I need to do is just sit back. Boom. Make sure this hook, a detail I like to use a lot. When you fall like this, I make a hook here. All the way, so look, this is free. Then I fix myself. So before I go, I make a hook all the way on the other side. Look at my leg. Because here I can go for a choke, right? Or an armbar. So there's a lot of attacks. It's one of my favorite positions, or better, the back is my favorite position. All right, so here, I'm gonna use my other leg on top of my foot. Then I'm gonna fix it. One more time. Right here. Go in, push down, switch my arm in. Boom. I can go all the way to the shoulder if I want, or I can stop on the collar. Whatever you can at the back of the collar. Whatever you can get. I'm used to doing the position, so I can go here. And Kristina is my size. But if she's bigger, I'm just gonna go here, just to have a grip. Push, boom, boom. Stay tight. Stay close. Now I'm just gonna push, sit, look. Right here. Get closer. All right, guys. That's how I use the S mount. And those are all the details that I put into it. Sometimes with the drills, I'm not able to show all the details that go with it. So I show the drill a little bit faster, but that's all the details that go with the position when I use it, you know? So depending on whatever questions you guys have you guys have the time now.
A really important thing to detail with that is you don't need flexibility to get the foot over the hip, right? The first foot that he brings over the body. If you're having a harder time with that, you just need to slide up the base.
The base higher.
Yeah, the one that's closer to the head. Slide it up higher. The higher that's slid up, the easier it is for you to clear the leg over the hip. And then lean to that side too, so you don't have to like struggle to put the foot over. The higher you are, the more that you lean, the lighter the leg is, and it's easier for you to clear the hip. Right?
And one more thing, sometimes people are very flexible and they will do this when you get here. And a lot of people panic. So when you get here, right, and you have your seatbelt and you're able, like you're ready to go, people will close there, right? Or in this case, when you get your leg here, Kristina will get half guard. People are like, oh man, now what do I do? It's okay, you just keep going. You still have the back. All right, it doesn't really matter, right? Even if they feel like, oh man, I'm gonna survive now because I have sort of the leg inside my legs, it doesn't matter. You know, they still giving you the position. You're still gonna get the position. You just keep driving.
It's kind of like a trick. So always know that if you actually have your chest connected to their back and they put the foot in between the leg, it's not like you're in mount and then they put the leg in between and now it's a half guard.
No.
If you actually have the back control, which is again chest to their back, you're behind them and they put the foot in, that's literally just your first hook in.
Yeah.
To taking the back.
It's just
and also keep in mind, very good point that he made, that you don't need both hooks to submit.
No.
Both hooks in are just for the points. But if you really want to like submit someone or actually just keep them, or if we're talking self-defense, you don't have to have both hooks in here. You can keep it the way that he has it, or if you want to go straight to submission, you don't need both hooks for submission. You just need one, or you don't even need either actually, but keep in mind that just because there's only one hook, it doesn't mean you can't submit.
I would even go as far as saying, everybody knows that I always say I love seatbelts. I really do. Because it is, like, if you have a good seatbelt, you can go as far as maintaining yourself on somebody's back, you know, with just one hook. And the person is fighting, but you're still connected. Like, that's why, like, when you get a seatbelt, you're, like, very, very close to getting the back. In my point of view, like, the seatbelt is very important. And I think a lot of people don't touch on that base. And usually when I show mine, I show the same way I was taught. And I was taught by a lot of black belts. And they you know, if Mr. Gary remembers, like, Pimenta loves to do this. It is a funny thing, but he loves to say you should love the person. When he goes seatbelt, he doesn't stay here. He goes like this. It's like, I love you, you know? And it's weird because you're like, man, why would I put my face on the other person's face? But that's when the position is the tightest possible, you know? And you know you have locked something in that the person will have a hard time to let go, right?
You know, one other thing too about the seatbelt, and I have to go back to like the early 2000s. I saw Eddie Bravo talking about the seatbelt grip. And it was at a time when it wasn't really known. It didn't even have a name. And he referenced Marcelo Garcia and said that he was the first one he had ever seen use that position.
Yeah.
So I just thought I'd mention that because you guys watched Marcelo Garcia earlier today. And you know what? I mean, I who knows if he invented it or not, but he certainly like was on a camera and beating some pretty good people using that technique.
And not only that, why would another thing I would say that's about is really important because look, a lot of people will lose the back if, like for example, Professor Kristina starts getting up. A lot of people start getting scared and they lose the seatbelt. No. If you hold on your seatbelt, they will get up, you will stay on their back. They will jump over, you will still be on their back. Sometimes I have the back and people will do like forward rolls and I'm still on their back. It does not matter. As long as you have the seatbelt and you sort of like get closer to them like a backpack, it's impossible to shake you off. And when somebody can shake you off doing all types of crazy things, they break mentally. So you do whatever whenever you want. You know, I like being on the back. It is my favorite position. It's where I feel safe because I'm a small guy. You know, any other position for me, it's good. But the back is where I feel like, yes, you know, I can relax a little bit here, take my time, have them have, you know, take their, you know, make their mistakes, and then I you know, capitalize on them. If you like jiu-jitsu and you think you want to get like a strong position to be at, for me, it is the back. And it's actually, I think, one of the positions with the highest success rate of submissions, like a worlds and with black belts and everything. So he says a lot about it, you know. So I love the back. So everything back, I will you know, be like, yeah, say this, you know.
So major takeaways from today before we close up, since we're a little over today. When side control, read the points on the person, like I said. It's shoulders and hips, shoulders and hips. So if you want to create the opportunities for your attack, as opposed to just going off of their reactions and reacting to what they're doing, you can actually create the reaction, right? Just by where you put the pressure. Again, if I trap closer to my side, he can't turn away, but he can definitely turn towards me. If I trap far side, he can't turn in towards me, but he can turn away, right? So when you learn how to isolate, again, like shoulder, hip, shoulders, only hip, this is when you start being able to actually unlock where you're going to go as far as, am I gonna go knee on belly? Am I gonna go to mount? Am I gonna take the back? Am I gonna go for submission? Which way am I gonna turn my hips? You'll be able to designate. So kind of like when you get to side control, you wanna learn how to read this. This is kind of like being a quarterback and reading the field. Right? Like even if you said, all right, my play is I'm gonna, you know, shoot down and pass to wide receiver, but then you notice that the defense is lining up differently, you need to be able to change on the fly, right? So even if you were gonna go with one call, you're gonna have to switch to something else. What is it called, audible, right? So and you can create these situations too. So anytime you're in side control, keep that thought in mind. If you're finding that, oh, you're having a hard time progressing your position, just think shoulders and hips, okay? I think that's all I have to say. Gary, anything you want to say to close up? I know we went a little over today.
Not unless Tremont has an instrument. I have nothing.
You know, come on, not again.
I'll shut up when Tremont plays the trumpet. But yeah, that's all I've got. So hey, thanks everybody.
I gotta see you guys next week.
Yep. Does anybody have anything to say? Talia, Tremont,
Karen.
No.
All right. See you guys. Have a good night.
Right.
Bye-bye.